We'll start. Hmm. So we'll not be reading the previous paragraph today. I don't think it is required. But I shared on the group which are the verses, which are the questions of Arjuna, which Sri Aurobindo has covered in this chapter, and which are not. So in the class last time, I had mentioned 8.1 and 8.2. They are not covered specifically, though the word adhiyajna in the 8.2, one of those verses, 8.1 or 2, where he says that all action has to be offered to the divine or something like this, it indirectly refers to that. 12.1 was not covered, which is the beginning of the Bhakti Yoga chapter. The question being that which is superior basically? Bhakti Yoga, is it better or Jnana Yoga is better? I'm putting in very simple words, but that is the sum and substance of the question. That is 12.1. Here in Incarnate Word, it says 17.1 over here, 14.21 as well as 17.1. So I had mentioned only 14.21, but yeah, I guess 17.1 can also be taken because basically in 17.1, the what he says is Arjuna, ये शास्त्र विधि मुत्सृज्य अ, यजन्ते ये शास्त्र विधि मुत्सृज्य वर्तते कामकारतः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्वमाहो रजस्तमः. That he who does not follow the shastra, uh, what kind of shraddha he has. One second, I'll just check the यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः. Sorry, not vartate kamakaratah. Ye shastra vidhim utsrijya. He who does not follow the shastra, but he is endowed with shraddha. But shraddhayanvitaha. Tesham nishtha tu ka Krishna. What is his concentration? What is his concentrated will of being? Is it sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic? And this is basically the chance for Krishna to tell about the three gunas. We'll be covering the outline today as per Yogesh ji's request. Uh, Yogesh is here. Yeah, okay. So therein in the 17th chapter, Sri Krishna, Sri Bhagavan actually is called here. I pointed out in one of the earliest sessions that the Gita was basically a spike in the graph of Krishna's life itself. It was not something normal for his consciousness. The Gita says Krishna was spoken in a state of supernormal consciousness, which he lost immediately afterwards. This is the exact sentence of Sri Aurobindo. Anyway, so the right word is Sri Bhagavan. So he tells about the three types of food, the three types of yajna, the three types of dana, and the three types of tapas, according to the gunas in the 17th chapter. And then in the 18th, seven more things are told. Uh, we'll cover that when we go through the outline. I need not mention it here. So 17.1 is covered that way. On the group, I had mentioned 8.1, 8.2, 12.1, and 17.1. So out of these, basically, I mean, only 12.1 is left out. Yeah, 8.1 and 8.2 also, because the whole question is not mentioned. Why Sri Aurobindo did not put them here? Um, Maybe perhaps because what he's trying to highlight here is, again, as we have been saying for the last 2-3 sessions, the nature of the disciple who is asking these questions, and that is a somewhat a pragmatic man, a practical man. The questions that are asked at the beginning of the 8th chapter, they are quite philosophical, and he asks them because at the end of the 7th chapter, Krishna sort of you know uh, bombards him, if you want to put it that way, because these terms are very new to him. What does adhyatma mean? What does adhiyajna mean? What does akshara mean? Etc. etc. So perhaps that is why. And again, the 12th chapter, first verse, um, uh, it's not really that practical sort of question. So that's why they have not been highlighted. But obviously, they will not be left out when those essays come. Then obviously, I mean, they will be covered and the whole thing will be fully linked. So this was just to fill up sort of the gap in the previous session. For today, we will finish this last paragraph of the human disciple. And then, as per Yogesh ji's request, because um, we already saw that Sri Aurobindo is referring to questions asked by Arjuna as far as the 18th chapter and 17th and all that. So we'll try to just give a broad outline of the structure of the Gita. That will help. It will certainly help because Sri Aurobindo, he's not like the usual commentators. I have said this so many times. He cross references all the time while commenting, while writing an essay on the second chapter of the Gita. He might refer to something in the 18th chapter. This kind of anticipation happens. So that broad outline will be very useful. I mean, that way overall. But for now, we'll read the last paragraph of this chapter. Um, who has not read in any of the previous sessions? Himanshuji, would you like to read? Your mic is off, sir.
Yeah. Okay, I'll
Yes,
read.
please. You have to read from here. To such a disciple, the teacher of the Gita.
Okay. To such a disciple, the teacher of the Gita gives his divine teaching. He seizes him at a moment of his psychological development by egoistic action when all the mental, moral, emotional values of the ordinary, egoistic, and social life of man have collapsed in a sudden bankruptcy. And he has to lift him up out of his lower life into a higher consciousness, out of ignorant attachment to action into that which transcends yet originates and orders action, out of ego into self, out of life in mind, vitality, and body into that higher nature beyond mind, which is the status of the divine. He has at the same time to give him that for which he asks and for which he is inspired to seek by the guidance within him. A new law of life and action high above the insufficient rule of the ordinary human existence with its endless conflicts and oppositions, perplexities, and illusory certainties, a higher law by which the soul shall be free from this bondage of works, and yet powerful to act and conquer in the vast liberty of its divine being. For the action must be performed, the world must fulfill its cycles, and the soul of the human being must not turn back in ignorance from the work it is here to do. The whole course of the teaching of the Gita is determined and directed, even in its widest wheelings, towards the fulfillment of these three objects.
Right. Thank you. So, again, he's just summarizing basically the nature of the disciple here. To such a disciple who is more interested in getting practical guidance for the task at hand, for the work that he is called upon to do. Okay. To such a disciple, the teacher of the Gita, T capital, signifying perhaps the Jagat Guru, Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum in that sense. Sri Aurobindo does not use capital and small casually, just like that, obviously. No proper writer does, far less Sri Aurobindo. The teacher of the Gita gives his divine teaching. He seizes him at a moment of his psychological development by egoistic action. Now, the word egoistic sounds a little strong here for a hero like Arjuna and somebody who has even been worshipped in the Indian culture and all, like we read in one of the earlier sentences. But obviously, I mean, it's a mixture of egos. As I said, any of the gunas can overpower any of the other two gunas at any given moment of time. I had shared the words on the WhatsApp group. So it's a mixture, and predominantly because it's called Vishada. So it's a tamo. He's been overpowered by the tamo guna. He's trying to camouflage it by using sattvic argument, but basically he has fallen into a very weak state, and he has got an ego. Ultimately, what it means is separation. So he has got separated from that, that state within him, which is why when he says that I am ready to fight, what does he say? Sthitosmi, gata sandeha. I am sthita. I am established. That's the only word he uses. Huh? Sthitosmi, gata sandeha, karishye vachanam tava. I am established and my all doubts are gone. I will do what you say. Right? So, by egoistic, when all the mental moral, emotional values of the ordinary egoistic and social life of man have collapsed in a sudden bankruptcy. It's the second time this word is coming in this chapter. I mean, we know what kind of connotations the word brings to our mind. So he is clueless basically what to do. And it is in that state of complete surrender. I might say here, I mean, no offense, it's not offensive actually, but there is a similarity in Sri Aurobindo's life as a sadhak. Wow. So he starts doing the yoga in 1904 uh, or 5 approximately. He learns pranayam from the disciple of a great yogi, one of his friends, a certain Deshpande. Okay. And he tries pranayam for 5 hours a day, 3 hours in the morning, 2 in the evening, and other practices of his own, which he does not mention exactly. But he says after 4 years of all these efforts, he was at a loss. He says, I was at a complete loss. Okay. It's very useful to understand this example from Sri Aurobindo's life. And then in that condition, though he is the divine and he is an avatar, but like Ramakrishna, like Sri Krishna, he also makes a guru. That guru is Lele. And what he is asking Lele is for Shakti, something to give him Shakti by which he can act powerfully and liberate Mother India. But because he's at such a loss, he had also gone through a health crisis. He had stopped doing pranayam, and when you do that after having done it for a long time, it can create health issues and all. But basically, physical health is a small part of it. Basically, he was at a loss. And that is why, and I'm not saying that that is why he surrendered, but that is part of the reason why Sri Aurobindo's surrender to his teacher was so complete, that when the teacher told him, what you need to do throughout these thoughts, neither the disciple nor the teacher in this case, they had expected that such an extraordinary thing will happen. And it was so extraordinary what happened. It is there in Letters of Sri Aurobindo. I will share the link to that letter on the group. That Lele was also left, literally agape. Ki ye kya ho gaya? He was, and the result, and because the surrender was so complete, because the helplessness before mother also. I mean, this is very real. And mother ka example ye hai ki she says that when I met Sri Aurobindo in 1914, I had tried all kinds of things to silence my mind. This is one thing. She had found her soul. Okay, that she had found in her 20s, exactly when we do not know. But silencing the mind, she says in the agenda, I had even tried pranayama, I had tried all sorts of things, but she was not able to silence her mind. So, in that respect, I mean, at the age of 36, she was at that time, she was also at a loss how to achieve this. And all of us are facing that difficulty, right? The monkey mind or some kind of mind, all the time it's just buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. So the solution obviously to that is surrender. So these two examples just to, drive home the point, this similarity in the life of any genuine sadhak, this bankruptcy. You don't know what to do. Kya karu? Obviously, it's not the same situation in Sri Aurobindo and mother's case, but that kind of, they have reached a point where they are not able to understand what to do, and then they are in such a state of surrender that when they meet a divine channel, in Sri Aurobindo's case Lele, and in mother's case Sri Aurobindo, then the Shakti just flows, I mean, uninterruptedly through the channel, and what needs to be achieved in the seeker or the sadhak is achieved, right? So, and he has to lift him up out of this lower life into a higher consciousness. This is the purpose of the Gita. To lift, the purpose of the Gita is, he will clarify in the next chapter, that it is not to perform social duties, it is not to be an example of humanitarianism, philanthropy. All these things are good, they are preparatory, but the aim of the Gita is to lift us from the lower nature, what it calls apara prakriti, into the higher nature, para prakriti or mam prakriti, swam prakriti, etc. What Krishna calls, okay? My nature, the divine nature. His nature we must put on as he put ours. This line from Savitri. All right. Out of ignorant attachment to action into that which transcends, yet originates and orders action. Out of ignorant attachment to action. For this, there is a quarter of a verse in the third chapter. It is 3.25. Saktaha karmani avidvanso. So saktaha means attached. Karmani means in works. There might be others. This is the one that I was able to, that came to me from this thing. Avidvanso means somebody who does not know. So out of ignorant attachment to action into that which transcends, जो action के beyond है, completely beyond है. Because the divine is not bound to action. He is totally free. As Sri Aurobindo points out in the Life Divine also, that being completely free, whether to create the world or not create. If he chooses to create, it can be only for one reason, and that reason is Ananda. Most powerfully in the Vedantic scriptures dealt in the Taittiriya Upanishad, where it says, Anandatyeva khalvimani bhutani jayante. I mean, it is from Ananda that all these beings have come into being. Having come into being, they live by Ananda, and it is into Ananda that they're finally going to enter. Why I am saying this? It's important because the interlude of Buddhism, okay, of course, there was Vaishnavism later on to correct it, and Mayavad came to give the one instead of the zero of Buddhism and all that. But somewhere that tendency of dukkha, that dukkha vada, which is kind of the signature of Buddhism in a sense, you find them quite near us. That is what I have seen wherever I have seen it. So, as an antidote to that, that no. And Vaishnavism, particularly the Krishna brand of Vaishnavism, in that whole Ananda thing is there very powerfully. But then again, that can be distorted into a vital form. But to remind that the reason for the creation ultimately is only one, and that reason is Ananda. The Isha Upanishad says this in a pithy saying, Tena tyaktena bhunjitha. By that renounce, thou shouldst enjoy. So you should enjoy. Spirituality should not be mistaken to understand that you should lose all sense of enjoyment. No. The purpose is enjoyment, but that right kind of divine enjoyment. All right. So just somehow in the flow, this point came out, which transcends yet originates and orders action out of ego into self. Ego is the divided consciousness. Self is that which is the same in everybody, which unites everybody. Like Krishna says in the 7th chapter, Mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana eva. There he says me. For self, the words in the Gita is Atman. That is obviously the most common word. Sometimes Akshara Purusha or Brahman. These are also, they can mean the self depending on how the text is written there. All right. So from that, Mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana eva. All this is strewn in me as pearls on a thread. So he is that self, he is that common thread which is binding everything. So unless that thread is found, the real unity can never be achieved. Whatever external measures you may make, organizational measures, this, that, etc. Is my voice clear? Somebody said that the voice is not clear. Is it clear? Okay, fine. Out of life in mind, vitality, and body into that higher nature beyond mind. The higher nature, para prakriti, is referred in 7.5 and 7.6 of the Gita. Apareyamitastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param. So that prakritim vidhi me param, that para prakriti. Etad yonini bhutani. That is the womb of all creation. That is like, I think probably the word yoni or this comes only twice in the Gita. So that's only reference indirect if you want to relate to the Divine Mother. But it's the word mata does not come. The word that is used in the Gita is para prakriti. Obviously, the reason for that is the Gita is following the Vedantic line, and in the Vedantic line of development, it is the Purusha aspect, what can be called the masculine aspect, what is called the masculine aspect, that is given more stress with the idea of liberation. That is why it is not mentioned. But yes, somebody who wants to note down 7.5 and 7.6, this is where the para prakriti is mentioned. All right. Higher nature beyond mind, which is the status of the divine. Okay. That nature, the divine nature. He has at the same time to give him that for which he. So it's not just he gives him knowledge and takes him beyond. Again, he might become inactive. What he needs is a divine guidance which will make him act and do this again. Ghoram karma. Bahut ghora karma wo karne wala. Sri Aurobindo also referring to himself, he says that after that realization, I was walking on the streets of Calcutta going to my office and I was engaged in ghoram karma. He was doing a revolutionary action. I mean, this is no secret now, even the revolutionaries like his brother and all who were making bombs and all, they had his silent blessings. It was very practical. It might lead to something good, he thought. So, that Ghoram kind of, apart from the bomb throwing thing, just the whole way in which he was writing those articles in the Bande Mataram and Karma Yoga and all, it was absolutely Ghoram Karma. He was taking upon the greatest empire in the world at that time, right? So, yeah. Where is it? Yeah. To give him that for which he seeks and for which he is inspired to seek by the guidance within him. He is inspired to seek this guidance from within him. By itself, Arjuna may not have asked these questions. Even wo thoda sa bhi philosophical, metaphysical element nahi aata. But like we said, we referred to those Bengali writings of Sri Aurobindo, that it is the Daivi Maya of Krishna which kind of makes him ask these questions so that this, one of the greatest scriptures available to humanity, could be given via Arjuna. All right. So a new law of life. Law ke liye the Sanskrit word is dharma. Here, a new law of life and action, high above the insufficient rule of the ordinary human existence with its endless conflicts and oppositions. इसके लिए the word in the Gita is द्वंद्व. Oppositions के लिए द्वंद्व, dualities, oppositions, द्वंद्व. Raga Dvesha is the highest in that sense. There are several dvandvas mentioned in the Gita. Philosophically, the highest would be Sad Asat. So in the, I think, 7th chapter, he says that I am Sat and I am Asat. Okay? But Raga Dvesha, Sukha Dukkha, Labha Hani, Jaya Vijaya, Mana Apamana, Ninda Stuti, all these oppositions, and which we know, between which we just keep moving from one end to other like a helpless being. I mean, it is so pathetic to, if we observe our nature and how we hear something nice and we get puffed up, and we hear something bad and we are deflated. That's man upman and all that. But raga dvesha, feeling such a strong liking for something, and on the contrary, this is actually one of the things which all spiritual teachers advise, to get rid of strong preferences. In fact, Madhav Pandit ji in one of his talks was saying that every day you should do something which you do not like doing deliberately, so that it will develop that samata in you. I heard this in a talk, right? So all those conflicts and opposition, perplexities, we don't even know what the next thing is going to happen, and illusory certainties. We might feel that this is certain, but then it is not in our hands. So that certainty might well turn out to be an illusion, right? Illusory certainties, a higher law by which the soul shall be free from this bondage of works. So here I had written in my book 3.9, free from the bondage of works, because it is so important. That's why I'm repeating this again. Yajnarthat karmanon yatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma konteya mukta sangaha samachara. Any action that is not done anyatra, that is not done in the spirit of yajna, in the spirit of offering and sacrifice to the divine, it will be a source of bondage in this world. Loko ayam karma bandhanaha. Ayam meaning this, loka meaning this world. Karma bandhanaha. If we, like what action we are doing right now, I'm speaking, you are listening, mental activity, all this action we have to become conscious, and we should offer it to the divine as a sacrifice. Otherwise, this great fear. Why do people leave action and take sannyas? Because they are terrified that I will never come out of the bondage of works. The Gita gives the solution. Tadartham karma konteya. Offer that action to him. Of course, it's a process. The more you apply yourself to it, and that's why reading the Gita is one thing, but trying to put it into practice is, it can really consume you. And of course, it's not easy. But nonetheless, evolution is not supposed to be easy. Otherwise, the inner faculties, the powers and all, they don't come out. It's the difficult things which make us basically blossom and flower. So this has to be made note very carefully in the minds of those who are studying the Gita. 3.9. Yajnarthat karmanon yatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma konteya mukta sangaha samachara. I cannot emphasize this enough. All right. Okay. Basically, everybody who's supposed to join has joined. All right. 24. No problem. Yeah. And yet powerful to act and conquer in the vast liberty of its divine being. Now comes, I had said that this chapter will end very powerfully. So 1, 2, 3, he kind of summarizes again, and the supreme importance of action. For the action must be performed. This has to be read very slowly and very quietly. It goes into, like a mantra. For the action must be performed. The Gita never, it just does not allow you to. Sannyas ka ek rasta, it shows an exit road for those who want to take that road. It's allowed, but it is not preferred. It is tyaga which is preferred, the inner renunciation, not sannyasa, the outer renunciation. We'll come to that again in the outline. For the action must be performed. The world must fulfill its cycles. The world must, it's going towards a fulfillment. The cycles are not cyclic like this. They're actually spiral, and the spiral goes upward. In Savitri, there is this line, in the march of all fulfilling time. Because time nahi mila, but I'll share the whole passage. So that time, Mahakal jisko bolte hain, it ultimately fulfills everything. In the march of all fulfilling time, time ultimately fulfills everything. You just, the more you are in attune with that rhythm, the more happy you are, right? So the action must be performed. The world must fulfill its cycles. By giving up actions, we are giving up our contribution to the fulfillment of those cycles. And I mean, the divine energy will basically cast us aside. It can lead to all kinds of problems. And the soul of the human being must not turn back in ignorance from the work it is here to do. Now, this I mean from the individual perspective, Swabhava and Swadharma perspective, very important. The soul of the human being must not turn back in ignorance from the work it is here to do. Arjuna was born to fight the Mahabharata war. उसका जन्म ही इसलिए हुआ था, and he is going back upon that. So how will it be allowed? And for each of us, the soul has come with a certain purpose. What are we here to do? हम यहाँ क्या करने आए हैं? The inner realization of the divine, that is obviously a common task for everybody. Mother was asked, why are we on earth? This is the question. Why are we on earth? Okay, Mother replied, to find the divine who is in each of us and in all things. So obviously, if that inner discovery happens, then by virtue of that, the work that we are supposed to do will also be done. But this dichotomy should not be there. Just the inner realization. We are here for everybody. They have to find, and Mother says that I'll share these quotations. They are very helpful and very important actually. That no matter how humble that work is, it does not matter. But if it is that which you are supposed to do, you must do that with all your heart and soul. Okay? What is my Swadharma? What do I have to do? And everybody is given a certain task. In the whole cosmic hierarchy, everybody has their place. One has to find one's work. Obviously, for that, one has to find one's soul, one's truth, the divine within oneself. All right? Okay. So for the action must be performed, the world must fulfill its cycles, and the soul of the human being must not turn back in ignorance from the work it is here to do. The whole course of the teaching of the Gita is determined and directed, even in its widest wheelings, towards the fulfillment of these three objects. All right. So, any question, anything, any comment, anything? Nobody? Nobody? Okay. Yes, please. Yes,
just
please.
like higher, sorry, higher law, would it mean paradharma? The same
Higher
as,
law would mean the paradharma, the divine law, basically.
okay.
Sarvadharman parityajya
Yeah,
mamekam sharanam.
yeah.
So you give up all the other laws which ultimately belong to the sphere of ignorance, though they might be mental, moral, and this and that. But it is ultimately only when you totally surrender to the divine and your will is united with his will, then and only you are able to truly follow that higher law, the divine law. Right.
Anmol,
Yes,
this
sir.
line, and the soul of the human being must not turn back in ignorance from the work it is here to do.
Yeah.
Just to elaborate it for people who are on the path of self-discovery, are sincere seekers, you are doing whatever day to day, whatever life is opening up, if you are trying to be in that consciousness. But in terms of a clarity, the
It will
work
come.
the individual is supposed to do, at what stage does it actually become clarity? Only when the lid is open? Till then,
Yes.
it is still, you're trying to
Yes.
put in your best
No,
effort,
till then
and
it
you
will
don't
not.
have.
Till then it will not. Till then it will
Right.
not. For example, I mean, I'm giving Shobhando's example. So he was involved so completely in the political struggle and movement. So obviously that was one of his roles and one of his objectives as the incarnation to initiate the Indian freedom movement. But was that what he had come to do? Was that the mission of the avatar? No. Did he come to write books? No. The mission of the avatar of Mother and Sri Aurobindo was to bring down what he has termed the supermind. And that became clear to him only when he developed that inner union. I'm here presenting Sri Aurobindo as a sadhak. Of course, it is a supreme example. But it is only when that complete surrender to Krishna happened that he was, said, go to Chandarnagar and go to Pondicherry. And 4 years, I mean, 1910 to 1914, what he was doing, nobody even knows. He was writing, he was totally absorbed in sadhana. And then he got that clarity, and that clarity also came step by step. So basically the divine, we are moving from ignorance towards knowledge, and as long as even a shade of ignorance is there, complete clarity won't come. The complete clarity comes by the process of yoga. Initially we begin by offering our actions to the divine. We do not stop acting first of all. Till now what we have read, the most important thing to understand in that is that we are not at any point supposed to give up all action and just sit idle. There might be a small phase when you need that some retreat or something, but in general that is not what the Gita advises. Okay. And
Right,
then by
right.
offering those actions, सहजम कर्म कौन्तेय सदोषमपि न त्यजेत, उसके पहले वाला जो था, slowly we follow our swadharma, but then that gradually that swadharma will turn into that divine dharma. We will learn what actually our soul, our psychic being, what is the purpose for which it has come in the world. That can happen only exactly. You call it lid here. I would say even the veil when it is rent, the veil of the heart. Okay. Even then you
Right.
can start getting that guidance that how, I mean, basically what you're supposed to do. But it cannot happen without the revelation of the soul. Unless you realize your divinity, that kind of clarity cannot come. That much is clear.
Perfect. Thanks.
All right. So now last time Yogesh ji, because he had asked for an outline of the Gita. Now since other people are also there, is everybody like interested in this? You want that? You can just give a thumbs up there because it will take the rest of the session. It will take. All right. All right. I'm getting 1, 2. Okay. I had prepared for that and it's very easy actually. The website that is created by Sampadananda Mishra, in that the chapter's outline is there. Here, basically. You can see the screen. The Gitas, the chapters can be seen. Chapter 1
Yes.
summary,
Yeah.
is it visible? Okay, okay. So basically, first of all, अगर हम outline की बात करें, Sri Aurobindo divides the 18 chapters of the Gita into 3 parts. Okay, first 6, second 6, and last 6. In that also he says, ये मैं तीसरी चौथी बार बोल रहा हूँ कि the first 6 chapters are so profound that there's so much to realize in them that if the Gita were not a great written book, if it were a discourse, then Krishna could have stopped here and told him to first realize what he has written here, and then the rest of the discourse will be given. So basically the first 6 chapters give you that necessary base. We said in the beginning of the series that Sri Aurobindo considers the message of the Gita to be the basis of the great spiritual movement, etc., etc. In the Gita itself, it is the first 6 chapters which are the base, if you want to further break it down. All right. This should be clear. The book Essays on the Gita is divided into 2 parts, and then the second part is divided into 2 parts again. Right. So the chapter number 7 to 12, he has named them as the synthesis of knowledge, works, and devotion. Last part as supreme secret. That's like more of a general heading. We will go into each of the chapter outlines. So first thing is the division into these 6. I had not seen this before. I had read the Ramakrishna Mission Gita before this, Chinmay Mission Wala, Gita Press Gorakhpur. 3 I had gone through fully, but this kind of division was not there. So, I mean, it's a gift of Sri Aurobindo, number 1. Then, again, if you want to break further, I mean, it's the 18 chapters. And if you see the titles, okay, so what are the titles? I'll just go through the first 18 titles. That will give you some idea. So it starts with depression. The chapter first title is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. And this is an entry point for, many people, they get some loss or, some very great dejection. Somebody has died or something, some kind of loss and sorrow and dejection. This is the starting point of yoga for, I mean, it can be, it's not the ideal way to go about it, but that happens. So that Arjuna Vishada Yoga, and in that chapter, there are these 2 sections. First, wherein, all the conches are blown and all the thing is there. That's the description of the battlefield. In that particularly, the verses where the conches are blown, okay, around 8 or 9 verses. One might wonder that 700 verses, out of that, why so many verses are being dedicated just for the conch blowing? The reason for that is, listen carefully, the reason for that is, jo unki pratidhvani hai, the sound of those, the echo of those Sanskrit verses, when it resounds in you, you are literally transported to the field of Kurukshetra. This is not my own original intuition, I should say. I read this from Yogi, on somebody on Facebook. I read this. Rohit Arya karke Bombay mein rehta hai. So it is he who said this. But I quite agree with what he says. It's a very, very valid point that those conch verses, they basically sort of transport you into the field of the Kurukshetra, and it's as if you are, live witnessing. Like Sanjay, you are standing there. That is the power. They're like a gateway or entry into the Gita. All right. So that's in the first part. I can't recite them because the recitation takes time. Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vriddha pitamaha simhanadam vinadyochaihi shankham dadmau pratapavan. So Bhishma let out that, lion-like roar. Simhanadam vinadyochaihi, but very powerful. Maybe somewhere, on the Sunday sessions we can do it. That is in the first part of the Gita. There's the most powerful. And he says, place my chariot in the middle. Then in the second part, he tells about his dilemma. ये जो 28 to 46 यहाँ पे लिखा है, his observations and the revolt and etc. All this is there in the first chapter. Okay, then this will be a quick summary. इससे एक basic idea पड़ जाएगा. And more than this is actually not really needed because Sri Aurobindo goes through it very thoroughly, very systematically. I can guarantee you, I can absolutely assure you, you will not feel कि इसमें कहीं कोई problem हो रही है. There cannot be a more thorough and deep and Sri Aurobindo at the beginning of every chapter literally gives a summary of the previous chapter. In the first paragraph, he connects it very beautifully. So you will not feel any gaps or any difficulty in reading. Yes, the language is obviously metaphysical, profound and deep. So you will have to accustom yourself to the long sentences and the depth of the thought. That cannot be held. If you want something solid, then you have to learn how to digest it. So that part is there. Now in the second chapter, 1 to 3, Krishna's response, he used the word cleave. Do not act unmanliness. Yield not to unmanliness. Klaibyam masmagamah partha. Naitatvai upapadyate. It does not befit you. All right. Then 4 to 6, Arjuna's ethical arguments. All those things, how can I kill my teacher and my guru and all this. At any point, I should say, if one finds this boring or uninteresting, it's becoming too, point by point, khali screen se pad rahe, do let me know. I'll try. But I do not find कि आधे घंटे में या 35 minutes में, in a better way, the outline can be, this will give you a very good idea. But in case anybody has any objection, raise your hand or something, I'll try कि क्या कैसे कर सकते हैं. Okay, so these are ethical arguments. We've covered that. The most important verse in that, was this one. Karpanya dosho pahatasva bhavah. Prichhami tvam dharma sammudha chetah. Yachreyasyam nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. His disciple spirit seeking for the master's help for the best. Best ke liye the word is Shreyas. In the 3rd chapter it comes, again in the 5th chapter that word comes, right? Then Sri Krishna's revelation of the essential truth of the spirit, the Sankhya discrimination. Here is a typo here. Sankhya discrimination between the destructible body and the indestructible soul. Irrelevance of the fear of death and of grief. Basically the Atma Jnana, that the soul is immortal. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. Dehi nityam, the dehi, us, the true us. This deha is not the true us. It is the dehi which is the true us. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam. It cannot be killed. Okay. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata. In all these dehas, it's not that in my body the dehi is indestructible. In all the bodies, the indweller, the dehi is indestructible. We are familiar with that, so won't go into more. Then 31 to 37, the ideal of the Kshatriya. I had mentioned these verses, the ideal of the Kshatriya. Now, again, this chapter outline, if you want to read just these sections, there's something beautiful. I knew about this, but I had forgotten. Thanks to Yogesh ji's inquiry and this thing. It's a very, very amazing thing which Sampath ji has done. May not be exactly exact, but 99% this is correct. So, just if you want to make a note of this in your mind, आप बाद में जाकर के इसको use कर सकते हैं. Today Francesca is not there, so I can even use some Hindi if necessary. All right. Okay. So, ideal of the Kshatriya, the call to the yoga of the intelligent will, Buddhi Yoga. All those verses usme hai, 38 to 40, 41 to 46, importance of the right orientation of intelligence and will. Again, ye sare ke sare, basically 38 to 53 is the Buddhi Yoga. How to unite your intelligence with the divine, wo sara ka sara usme diya hua hai. All right, that is why the chapter titled is Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga. There are 2 editions of this. Sankhya is basically the analytical, the discriminative, and that which uses the buddhi. Okay, जो dissect करके analyze करता है और समझने की कोशिश करता है by that method. Okay, so the second chapter का title Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga, that way. And then 54 to 72, these are the Sthita Pragya. जो the man who is stationed in wisdom. What are his characteristics? Beginning with Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmanyevatmana Tushtaha Sthita Prajnastaduchyate. He who has cast out all desires from himself, and all that. So the characteristics of the self-reposed, the wisdom poised. Okay. Now, in the 3rd chapter, the divisions are less, the number of verses is less. Basically, first of all, Arjuna's question. Okay. People, those who want, they can even take a screenshot, or otherwise the website is there available. 3 to 8, Krishna's reference to the dual way of jnana and karma, the importance of karma, wherein he says karma jyayo hya karmanaha. Action is superior to inaction. And then he says without action you could not even do your sharira yatra. The absolute importance of action. The chapter is titled Karma Yoga, the yoga of works. And you will find basically the first 6 chapters, they sort of deal with Karma Yoga and the right place of sannyas and samata and all that. Basically, as a whole, you can say that this is what the first 6 chapters are. Uska jo base hai, wo yahan third chapter mein cover hota hai, after the grounding that is given in the second chapter. All right. Then 9 to 16, the significance of sacrifice. Wherein tells that Brahma created the world by sacrifice, and those who do not offer what you receive from the divine, you receive from the cosmos, but in return you do not do anything, you do not give back anything. Such a man is a thief, the Gita says. Steya, आधा स त के ऊपर बड़े एक ही मात्रा और य स्तेन एव सह, sorry, स्तेन एव सह. You are like a thief. So this importance of continuing the cycle of the world by giving back to the world from which you are receiving so much. Giving back to the gods. Like I had said, Indra represents the mind, the colloquy of Indra and Agastya. You have to develop your mind. That is how the cosmic mind, the Indra, will grow. Right? All these contributions that are being made to, as a whole, to uplift the cosmic mind. You know, basically that paraspar, this is the word which comes. This mutual sacrifice. The value of disinterested work, the yoga of works, the divine ideal. Again, I mean, all that the Krishna gives his own example, and from verse number 20 to 26, Sri Aurobindo says, you can make a note here, Sri Aurobindo because this is done by, I think by Sampatji only, Sampadanand Mishra ji, who has got this website made. Among these 17 to 26, 20 to 26, Sri Aurobindo says are 7 of the most important couplets in the Gita, which gives the ideal of the Rajarshi, how that is the ideal yoga, and how he gives his own example, how he works tirelessly. If he were to stop working, the world would go to destruction. Utside yurime lokaha na kuryam karma chedaham. If I were to stop working, these worlds would go to destruction. Men would follow my path. And basically the exhortation to a man like Arjuna, anybody who is a leader, to set an example before the world with his actions. All right. Then 27 to 35, natural determinism and the sadhana of karma. Basically, again, you know, prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Even the man of wisdom follows his nature. Because the man of wisdom is not always the realized man. He is somebody who is in the sattva guna. And that can again get overpowered by the rajo guna or tamo guna. So, you know, that nature ki this thing. Nature ki determinism. That 27, which it says, Prakritehe kriyamanani gunaihi karmani sarvashah. It is the Prakriti through the gunas which is doing everything. And even the man of wisdom follows his nature. I'll share the verse of that later on. That's not coming to mind right now. So that, and then the, you know, important verse, rather hang thyself than belong to the horde of successful imitators. Sri Aurobindo's aphorism. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushtitat swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. I mean, as far as practical importance is concerned for us Indians especially, you know, this tendency of aping and copying the West, this has to go away completely. Apne swadharm ka palan karo. And as individuals, bhed chal ko follow karna band karo. It is easier to follow that bhed chal, but you have to follow your own individual dharma. That Gita bahut strong hai. Swadharme nidhanam shreyaha. Find out what is that swadharma. Paradharmo bhayavaha. To follow the dharma of anybody else, to copy or imitate somebody else, it is fraught with danger, fraught with destruction. All right. Then 36 to 43, important again. What is not important in the Gita? The psychology of sin and delusion, the advice to rise to self-consciousness. Anybody who is, you know, afflicted, hai main kitna paap kar diya, paap kyun hota hai mujhse? Atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purushah. What is it that motives me to sin? The rajoguna, kama yesha, krodha yesha, rajoguna samudbhava, sorry, and all that. And then the this to rise to the higher consciousness. The method is given in that. Beautiful verses there towards the end of the 3rd chapter. Indriyani paranyahuhu indriyebhyah param manaha manasastu parabuddhihi yo buddhehe paratastu saha. These 4 levels are given. So than the objects of the senses are superior. Than the senses, the mind is superior. Than the mind, the manas, the buddhi is superior. Superior than the buddhi is the saha or the he. So this gradation, slowly you can step back and step back and step back and come into yourself. Again, the reference to this is in the 6th chapter. All right. So this is like the essence of this. Then the 4th chapter, the title is Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, the renunciation of knowledge and works, like this. And then again, usme in the till the basically the 15th, first of all, the origin of the divine teaching of the Gita, wherein Krishna says that I gave this to the sun god, and in the parampara of the Rajarshis, it came flowing down. I shared the quotation from the Chandogya Upanishad on the group, the verse number from that, wherein that reference comes in the Upanishad. And then 6 to 15, the avatarhood. This is very important. This is very important. One of the most important things in the Gita, the embodiment. The divine actually takes a human form. Manushim tanum ashritam. Right? And then 16 to 20, the secret of karma and yoga. So there are several verses on karma, kafi guthe hue hain. Karmanya karmayah pashyet. It says you should learn what is karmano hyapi bodhavyam, bodhavyam cha vikarmanah, akarmanascha bodhavyam, gahana karmano gati. You should know what is karma, what is vikarma, wrong kind of action, and what is akarma, what is inaction. And gahana karmano gati. It is not easy to disentangle the knot of karma. And then it says, what is it? Karmanya karmayah pashyet, akarmani cha karmayah. Sabuddhiman manusyeshu sayuktah kritsna karmakrit. He who sees action and inaction and inaction and action and all these kind of things, right? Then the various forms of sacrifice. The word yajna again and again and again and again it comes. Daivam eva pare yajnam yoginah paryupasate. All that, how you offer the incoming breath to the outgoing breath. Different kinds, 8-9 verses are there of the different kinds of sacrifice. Somebody who wants to understand sacrifice, is fascinated with the idea of offering, can go through these verses. Okay. Regarding food, there is a beautiful verse, 4.24 mein. Brahmarpanam brahmahavihi, brahmagnau brahmana hutam. ये मैंने रेफर किया था with regard to the samadhi that is relevant for the integral yoga. Brahma karma samadhina. So, the process of eating is Brahman. The eater is Brahman. The digestive fire into which you are pouring the food, putting the food, that is Brahman. Brahmarpanam. And the food itself is Brahman. Like this, when you meditate on everything as Brahman, you reach that state, Brahma karma samadhina. You are in a state of samadhi, in a state of yoga, where the action itself becomes Brahman. This is the samadhi that is desired. This is the integral way of the samadhi, not the samadhi in which you lose your consciousness completely. That is also useful to develop the inner consciousness, but that is not the kind of samadhi that is desired for transforming the world. Integral yoga mein, Shiv Aurobindo ko yoga mein, that is not the samadhi that is desired. Okay, I mean, it is desired only for a limited and temporary purpose. All right, all that is there. Then the spiritual knowledge, its great value. पूरा उसमें श्रद्धा के ऊपर है. How you have to approach the teacher. There are 3 words are there in that. Pranipatena, bow down before the teacher. Pariprashnena, ask the right kind of questions. Sevaya, serve the teacher. And then he will enlighten you. All these beautiful things. I mean, it is well nigh impossible to summarize the 700 verses like this. I'm just trying here. I'm not sure how helpful it is, but anyway. So then the Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. It is the man of Shraddha, the man of faith who gets knowledge. Somebody who does not have faith, he perishes from this world as well as from the other world. Usko kuch nahi milta. He who does not have faith. This is where, for the first time, the importance of Shraddha is told in the Gita. This, ubiquitous element in Indian culture, especially in the Bhakta type of temperament, कि Shraddha सबसे ज़्यादा जरूरी है. बिना श्रद्धा के कुछ नहीं होता. So this is there in these verses, 34 to 42. Spiritual knowledge के साथ साथ, because it is through the Shraddha, and ultimately, as Shiv Aurobindo explains, what you call faith, it is the foreknowledge of the soul. The soul knows everything. It is omniscient. So some of that light of the soul, it comes to your outer being, and it is like a torchlight on the path of your life. That is Shraddha. It is the foreknowledge of the soul. All right. Psychologically, this is what Shraddha is, what faith is. All right. Then the 5th chapter, it's called Karma Sannyasa, oneness of Karma Yoga and renunciation of Karma. Again, Arjuna asked the sannyasah karma yogascha nishtaya sakarabhav tayostu karma sannyasat karma yoga vishishyate. Again, the importance of karma is highlighted here. And then spiritual awareness and freedom in active life. For this, all these verses, basically, freedom in active life with that spiritual awareness, even doing everything, you do not lose that spiritual consciousness. Kurvannapi na lipyate. Kurvannapi, you are acting, but you are not tainted. So even while acting, you are free from the bondage of action. All this is there. Isme, I mean, several verses are there. As such, koi yaad nahi aa raha hai. Spiritual awareness and freedom and active life. All the activities of the senses, very powerful verses are there. Pralapan visrijan grihnan unmishan nimishan napi indriyani indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharayan. So all the sensory actions, we understand that it is the indriyas working in the field of the senses of the indriyas of the objects. But we ourselves are detached as the soul. We can understand that this is the play of Prakriti. All right. Then equality of spiritual vision, oneness with the divine and yogic attitudes in practical life. Samata ke upar hai. 5.19 for example. I had highlighted it earlier. Nirdosham. येषां साम्ये स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समं ब्रह्म तस्मात् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थिताः इहैव तैर्जितः सर्गो. He who has 5.19 is here. He who has established himself in, very important verse, that's why I'm highlighting it here. He who has established himself in samata, even here being in this world, ihaiva, he has won the creation, उसने सब कुछ जीत लिया. तैर्जितः येषां साम्ये स्थितं मनः. समत्वम योगा उच्यते, गीता बोलती ही है second chapter 2.48, right? So the supreme importance of samatha. So it goes on like this. Then the 6th chapter, practical hints of yoga are there to keep a straight back and keep samam kaya shiro grivam. This is the half a verse. All that. And then you go into a secluded place, how you have to shanai ruparamet. You withdraw your thoughts into your mind. All those, basically the kind of Raja Yoga of the Gita, basically, all that is there in the 6th chapter. And parts mein hai, I'll go through it. True renunciation. So the true renunciation, the verse is where he says, the true sannyasi is he who, one second, this one. ससन्यासी च योगी च न निरग्निर्न चाक्रियः अनाश्रितः कर्मफलम कार्यम कर्म करोति. So he who is not attached to the fruits of action, he is a true sannyasi, not somebody who has renounced all actions. All right. So then spiritual perspective and attitude, practical aids to the control of mind in yoga. This is very important. This all of us have to do, no matter what yoga we are doing, bhakti yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, this practical sort of thing, practical aids, because this is constant. How to withdraw your mind and all that, this is supremely useful versus these ones. The spiritual vision of oneness, where you see the divine in everything and see everything in the divine, and therefore you are never away from the divine consciousness, all that is there. Some psychological difficulties and occult questions. I had covered this last time. So Arjuna says that mind is so difficult to control. It's like trying to control the wind. How do you expect me to do it? And occult questions mein is where he says that you will go to the worlds of the righteous. Prapya punna kritam lokan. And then the occult question part, he refers to the previous slides, wherein he says that purva bhyasena tenaiva hriyate hyavashopi saha. I had highlighted this for 2-3 minutes, 4-5 minutes last time. Okay, by the fact of your having engaged in yoga in this life, okay, with those sanskaras and all, again आपका बस नहीं चलता. Avashah api and hriyate, the divine haran kar leta hai. He steals you as if against your own will, and you're again pulled back into the stream of yoga. Without this assurance, it is impossible to do yoga. Everybody understands that it is not possible to silence your mind completely and control the mind. You just read those verses 11 to 26, you will understand how difficult it is. We sometimes do not make the necessary effort to read the Gita. If we do, then we realize, yoga really kya hota hai. To talk about it is one thing, to practice it really, it's not easy. I'm not trying to pessimistic or anything, but Mother and Shri Aurobindo never said it is easy. Modern teachers वगैरह, sometimes to sell their marketing and all this, they do it. Otherwise, the divine never said it is easy. Krishna doesn't say it is easy. He says, I know it is difficult, but through practice, abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. Through practice, through detachment, slowly, shanai uparamet. Shanai uparamet, you will start dwelling in that self. They're beautiful verses. 6th chapter mein, beautiful verses. I'll share some of those beautiful, 8-9 of them are there, extremely beautiful, where that bait is there, ke sukham atyantikam, you get that atyantam sukham, you are divorced from dukha, all those beautiful verses are there. I'll go through the recording again and share those verses. Just read them and you'll feel so elated, right? So this is the end of the great value of yoga and the supremacy of the yoga of love, sorry. So the 6th chapter ends with a great declaration, the supremacy of bhakti, okay? The 2 verses are tapasvibhyodiko yogi jnanebhyopi matodikaha karmebhyaschadhiko yogi tasmat yogi bhavarjuna. Be a yogi. And we have to understand yogi in the first part of the Gita means karma yoga. Be a yogi. Do your works with your consciousness established in the divine. Yogastha kuru karmani. This is the quarter, okay, of a verse. Okay, and then योगिनाम अपि सर्वेषां मद्गतेन अंतरात्मना, जिसकी अंतरात्मा मुझ में, मेरी तरफ जिसकी गति है, जो मुझ में लगी हुई है, of all these yogis, मद्गतेन अंतरात्मना श्रद्धावान भजते यो माम, he who with full shraddha worships me, adores me, श्रद्धावान भजते यो माम समे युक्ततमो मतः. In my opinion, in my mata, he is yuktatama. He is the best united. So this is how the first part ends. Okay, I'm sorry, it's already 8:56. I couldn't do better than this. Maybe the session will extend by maximum 10 minutes today. Is that okay for everybody? Because important है outline and summary, but at the same time it's impossible to do it in the next 7-8 minutes में तो नहीं हो पाएगा. Those who want to leave can leave. They can see the recording. Dhaval is okay. Fine. So without wasting any further time, now begins the second chapter. Somebody said something? Nahin.
Yeah,
Oh,
you can
yeah.
continue.
Yeah. Okay. So these, he says, synthesis of yoga, works, knowledge and devotion. 12th is the devotion, bhakti yoga. 7th ka the title is, I forgot to tell the title of the 6th chapter. It's called Atma Samyama Yoga, or it is called Dhyana Yoga. These are the two titles. Atma Samyama, how to control yourself, most important. That's why I'm saying those 11 to 26. Again, I'm saying it, no matter what yoga you are doing, it is not possible not to follow those 11 to 26 of the 6th chapter. Okay? Constant practice में वो आते ही आते हैं. And we are all subconsciously doing it. गीता हमारे खून में है. ठीक है? For so many lifetimes, it has been there, and पता नहीं 5000 साल कब से है. So 7th chapter, the title is Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Jnana means essential knowledge. Vijnana means comprehensive knowledge. 30 verses. Arjuna doesn't speak. Krishna just goes on and on beautifully. And the promise that is there in the second verse of the 7th chapter is, after knowing this, nothing will remain to be known. Maya sakta manah partha yogam yunjan madashrayah asamshayam samagram mam. Integrally you will know me. Asamshayam samagram mam yathajnasyasi tachrunu. Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyami asheshatah. I am going to give you essential knowledge as well as complete knowledge without anything remaining. Yajnatva neha bhuyonyat jnatavyam avashishyate. After knowing this, nothing else will remain to be known. I can share from my side that after memorizing the 15th chapter, the second one which I memorized was the 7th chapter. Mainly because of this, मैंने कहा इसमें the promise that is given is, after knowing this, nothing will remain to be known. So essentially, if I am able to even keep these 30 verses in my mind and repeat them, then that's a small step towards omniscience that I am taking. Plato के बारे में कहा जाता, he knew everything about everything. That should be the aspiration of everybody. Why not? Why should we be satisfied with ignorance? And especially when we have such a book like the Gita with us, such a grace. All right. So the parts in this, lower nature, higher nature का mention इसमें आता है. The lower and the higher nature. What is the lower nature? अष्टधा बोलते हैं उसमें इसको, 8-fold. भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खम्मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहंकार इति यम्मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिष्ठः. So the ego that binds together the whole of the lower nature, which is why to untie those knots, it's not easy. It's shot through. तो process होता है. Do not be too sad or impatient कि मेरे अंदर से ego क्यों नहीं जा रही है. Read the record of yoga, you will find Sri Aurobindo himself struggling with it. Wherein comes the honesty. Ego का सबसे बड़ा problem है self deception. आदमी को पता ही नहीं चलता कि मेरे अंदर कितनी ego छुपी हुई. Right? The higher nature के बारे में comprehensive knowledge of the divine immanence. रसोहम अपसु कौन्तेय प्रभास्मि शशि सूर्ययोः प्रणवः सर्ववेदेषु शब्दः खे पौरुषं ऋषु पुण्यो गन्धः पृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु बीजं माम. Beautiful verses. I mean, just try to memorize if you can. Krishna इसका डिटेल में और फिर बाद में आएगा विभूति योगा में, where the special manifestations are. I am the rasa in everything. I am everything. Here he starts revealing his divine nature, but उसका essence बताते हैं. His supreme divinity he declares in the 8th chapter, verse number 8. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram. That is the first reference to the supreme divine. It comes in the 8th chapter. All right. So then 16 to 19, the 4 kinds of God lovers. What are the 4 kinds of God lovers? Yeah. The Artha, Artharthi, Jigyasu and the Jnani. गुणास के सेंस में The artha, the distress, the trouble, the depressed or whatever, that would be the tamasic. The artharthi, जो objects चाहता है, चीजें desire, he would be the rajasic. Okay? Gita में कहीं नहीं दिया, this I have done. I mean, I think it is right. We can have a discussion on this on the group or next session. Jnani is the sattvic. Sorry, Jigyasu is the sattvic. जिसके अंदर जिज्ञासा आ गई, who wants to know. Okay? But it's not sufficient. You have to be the jnani. You have to be the jnani, like Hanuman, who says to Rama, I know that you and me are one. But when I have to do the role of bhakta, I pretend to be separate from you. So jnani is gunatit. Right? These four. And the important part in this, Krishna says, sometimes we think that, no, why am I asking the divine for this? Nothing wrong in that. He says, Udaraha sarva evaite. All are noble. At least they have understood the good sense. They are asking the highest. They are not asking some intermediary. 8th chapter mein wo remind, he will warn, don't if you want the gods, if you propitiate the gods, and you will get what you want, but you are asking in the wrong way. Avidhi purvakam. Whatever you want, ask me directly, Krishna says. Devan deva yajo yanti mad bhakta yanti mamapi. The worshippers of the devas attain to the devas. My worshippers come to me. Adha verse aur hai uske baad. Twice he says. And the Gita is very frugal with its verses. Every verse is packed with meaning. Bengali writings में शिव बंधु ने स्तुति लिखी है wherein says कि I mean उसमें बाद में आएंगे, चलिए ठीक है. The worship of gods by the ignorant, हाँ, ashraddhaya and all that is there. Hints to integral knowledge. There those 5-6 terms are given, which are elaborated in the 8th chapter. Adhyatma, karma, adhiyajna, adhideva, akshara, all that. That is asked by Arjuna in the 8th chapter, 1st verse and 2nd verse. The terms of the integral knowledge. Right? The yogic way to final release into divine status. Yes. All of us have to leave the body at some point. I mean, that physical, I'm not challenging Mother or Shiva Bandhu or anything or stupid like that, But to be able to transform your body to the extent you don't have to leave it. I mean, I don't know whether it's possible, at least for myself, I don't think it is. Anyway, so the right way to leave the body, that is given in these verses. पूरा उसमें process बताया है, how you bring your prana here in the middle of the forehead and chanting Om, and through that yogic kriya, you leave your body like this. It is there. अंतकाले च मामेव स्मरण मुक्त्वा कलेवरम. उसमें भी जो एक stupidity आता है, शिव बंधु makes fun of it. कि people think that at the moment of death, I will just say Ram and I will get liberated. It won't happen. You have to follow that process throughout your life. Then your consciousness will be so connected. Some people have left. Okay, they can listen to the recording, no problem. But the process of leaving the body in the yogic way, in the Mahabharata, you will find instances of this. Even Dhritarashtra का दिखाया how he leaves his body in an extraordinary way. वो योगाग्नि से अपने शरीर को भस्म कर देता है. Nobody has to cremate him. Bhishma, I am sure, इच्छा मृत्यु थी उनकी जो उनकी, he must have left his body. Krishna must have left his body. Shiva Bandhu left his body in a conscious way. इच्छा मृत्यु थी उनकी, obviously. All that. So then the cosmic cycle, day and night of the creator, the hearings are, इसमें वो पूरा, what is a day and night in the spiritual sense? So a day is basically the creation and night is when the pralaya happens and it is withdrawn. Okay. Again, there are verses here कि in the practical चीज बता रहा हूं मैं इसमें, why negative thoughts invade more at night? So day and night, Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha, and Uttarayan, Dakshinayan. So in the dark periods of the physical universe, the influence of the dark forces is more. So better not to, that is why, better not to get into an argument or any such thing at night time. It can intensify. Nishachar bolte hain isliye unko. And Shiva Bandhu says that until the cosmic balance shifts in the favor of the divine, I'll paste this most important sentence, this is likely to continue. ये चलेगा ऐसे. पूरा उसमें वो अच्छे से बताया हुआ है. Then the last part, the supreme value of constant yoga. Satata yukta, वो पूरा उसमें आता है. I'm not able to remember the last two verses. 9-5. We'll cover by 9-10, 9-12 तक हम कर लेंगे. 9th chapter, अच्छा 8th chapter का title है Akshara Brahma Yoga. The yoga of the indestructible Brahman. Okay? Aksharam Brahma Paramam. That is how the Akshara is defined. 9th chapter is titled the Rajavidya Rajagohya Yoga. Rajavidya means the king of all Vidyas. Rajagohya means the supreme secret. What is the supreme secret? The supreme secret is that 9.4 और 5 में आता है that he transcends everything, yet everything is contained in him and he is in everything. So basically the complete freedom of the divine by virtue of his transcendence. This is the great secret. And without, if we, I've said this earlier, I'm repeating it, if we do not understand what is meant by the transcendent divine and we experience that transcendence, we will never attain total, complete, absolute freedom. Okay, this is there in the 9th chapter. Okay, the secret truth of the lordship and transcendence of the divine. लॉर्डशिप की बात वो करते हैं, थ्रू माय इन माय अध्यक्षता द प्रकृति क्रिएट्स द क्रिएशन, मया अध्यक्षेन प्रकृति ही सूयते सचराचरम, मेरी अध्यक्षता में प्रकृति ये सारे चराचर जगत को बनाती है. राइट, दिस इज देयर. द इग्नोरेंट एज अगेंस्ट द मेन ऑफ स्पिरिचुअल विजन, द इमिनेंट डिवाइन, अगेन from the continuation picking up from the, so these verses of the immanent divine, they can be read together with the verses from the 7th chapter. This is very supreme useful जो यहाँ पे किया हुआ है संपत जी ने, amazing work what he has done. The worship of the limited godheads and the love of the supreme divine. This I mentioned earlier, कि how you should ask directly, not get into the intermediaries, उसकी जरूरत नहीं है. Worship the divine directly. Okay, then last part, the inspiration to turn the entire life into spiritual yoga. Yat karoshi yadashnasi yajjuhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpana. This is there. Another, उसमें वो जो इसको लगता है afflicted with the sense of sin, गीता उसको liberate करती है, the great compassion of भगवान, कि you know, if you have resolved rightly and you've turned in the right direction, sadureva samantavyah, even if you are a sudurachari, apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag. This is the power of bhajan, the power of bhakti and worship. Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag, sadureva samantavyah samyak vyavasito hisa. This verse is there and all, and it man manavabad bhakto, finally completely your man, your bhakti, all your everything, your work, everything is offered to the divine. So herein is the starting point of that complete surrender, which comes in 18.65 and 18.66. All right. Then in the 10th chapter, nothing much easier comparatively. The 75 vibhutis are there in the second section, जो ये वाला है 19 to 42. उसके पहले there is a stuti by Arjuna of Krishna, where he tells that I have recognized who you are. Beautiful verses, worth memorizing. Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan and all that. And then God in the becoming, how Krishna tells that how he is there in the becoming. उसके examples वगैरह कुछ वो देते हैं, qualities, not concrete examples like Vyasa or Skanda or this. Concrete examples come later. Okay, the great souls with knowledge and love. That, I mean, some mention is there. Again, this is not a perfect classification, but this is giving a very good idea. So इस chapter का most important relevance ये है कि it gives you concrete examples of how to meditate on the divine. The sun becomes divine after this chapter for you. The moon becomes divine. The ocean becomes divine. All these great entities whom we see in the culture, Vyasa hai, Arjuna becomes divine. You realize that Arjuna is a vibhuti. All these things, Skanda, Rama, Rama Shastra Bhritamaham, Rudra, all these names are there. All these, it's a very incredible chapter. I mean, what to say? Gita is 11th chapter, Vishwarupa Darshan. Again, I mean, I need not go into the detail, but basically he first says, can you show? Then he shows, and then he gets terrified. Then he says, come into the Saumya Rupa. And then the command to the divine action is given after the Kalosmi thing. He realizes that he is the great time and he is devouring all these beings. And even if Arjuna is not there, Rite Pitvam na bhavishyanti sarve. Even without you, these people have no future, he says. So, you know that 55 verses, this is the, in a sense, this is the culmination of the Gita. In a sense, the teaching culminates because now he has been totally proven. Usko dikh gaya yaar, bacha kya hai? जो वो कह रहा था कि मैं नहीं लड़ूंगा, I don't want to kill these people, Krishna says they're already killed. Maya hatan tvam jahi. They're already killed by me. You just do the slaying bit. So in a sense, the Gita, this is the high point and the crescendo of the Gita. After this, basically the further development is for, you know, जो fine points रह गए हैं भक्ति के and ज्ञान वगैरह के, उनको cover करती है गीता. 12th chapter is about devotion. उसमें, I mean, the second part, verse number 13 to 20, practical life के उसके लिए. The qualities that a bhakta should have, they are there in that. So how the bhakta does not hurt anybody, मान अपमान के अंदर equal होता है, all those things are there. In the beginning, the supremacy of bhakti is told by Krishna. how Jnana Yoga, pure Jnana Yoga, without taking any form or help of the divine or thinking of his grace, how that is more difficult. Kleshaha adhikataraha, he says, right? And then alternative steps in sadhana, isme again this gradation is given. Okay, if you cannot do this, then you do this. If you cannot do that, then you do that. Finally, he says karma phalatyagaha. If you are able to do it, karma phalatyagaha, then everything happens. Right? So this is like the summary of the 12th. 13th, the knower of the field. Three things are there basically in the 13th. The kshetra and kshetrajna. Kshetra means the body. Kshetrajna means the knower of the body. So he tells about the constituents of the body. It's like a scientific chapter. Physics है उसमें थोड़ा. Sanghataschetana dhritihi, persistence, collocation, all this we'll cover. So I'm just trying to highlight here, outline here rather. Prakriti or Purush mein he tells the difference. What is Prakriti, what is Purusha, and what is the one thing. Gyan ke liye there are 3.5 verses. What constitutes Jnana? How you can get into that state where you will be receptive to the Jnana. That is there. Okay. And then in the 14th chapter, basically, from this is where the gunas start coming in and detailed exposition of the gunas is there. Fundamentally, in these 20 verses, 27 verses, what he tells is the working of the 3 gunas, how you can identify that which guna is dominant in you at this time, and all that is there. Fundamentally, this is what is there. You can go through this at your leisure. 15th में the teaching of the Gita है, जो उसका main word जो उसको देना है, Purushottama. It is basically about the 3 Purushas, the mutable, the immutable, and the supreme. And how, once you have surrendered all your actions to that Purushottama, then you are Kritakritya. This is again, you can say, a high point of the Gita. जो उसका fundamental teaching है, that of the Purushottama. Fundamental teaching, I am saying in the sense of the new word that the Gita gives in the history of spiritual literature. That is done in the 15th chapter. Purushottama Yoga. That is the chapter title. 14th ka title hai Gunatraya Vibhaga. The 3 gunas, unka division. 13th is Kshetra Kshetrajna Yoga. Body and the knower of the field. 16th is called Daivasur Sampat, the good nature in us and the bad nature in us. Deva and Asura. 1 to 3 properties of the divine character, 4 to 18 properties of the demoniac character. It's like a mirror to us. कि कहीं मेरे अंदर ये तो नहीं है. And I mean, some of those traces of the demoniac character will be found. I mean, it's not easy to get rid of it completely. That rajoguna, na, that mixture of rajas and tamas, इसको पूरी तरह drive out करना is not easy. And then in the end, the injunction to follow the Shastra. The undivine consequences of demoniac properties, advice to regulate life by the divine law. 17th and 18th May, 9-13. I'll not go here. Yeah, I'll just show on the screen what is there, 17th May. So basically, it is called Shraddha Traya Vibhaga, the 3 kinds of Shraddha. So first he tells what is the importance of Shraddha. A man is what his Shraddha is, he says. Shraddha mayoyam purushaha, yoyat shraddhaha, sa eva saha. Okay. And then 3 types of food, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, 3 types of Yajna, 3 types of Dana, 3 types of Tapa. And then again in the Tapa, sometimes, मुझे तपस्या करनी है. We hear of great sadhak like Ganapati Muni or Sri Aurobindo, इन्होंने कितनी तपस्या करी. And we get excited, or we get the resolution. I also want to do तपस्या. तपस्या कैसे करनी है? तपस्या क्या होता है? तपस्या की परिभाषा यहाँ पे दी हुई है. ये tapas of the body, speech and mind. Mother has also given 4 austerities and 4 liberations. अभी मुझे याद नहीं है वो क्या है. But here, देव द्विज गुरु प्राजना पूजनम शौचम आर्जवम ब्रह्मचर्य महिंसा च शारीरम तप उच्यते अनुद्वेगकरम वाक्यम सत्यम प्रियहितम चयत स्वाध्याय अभ्यसनम चैव वाङ्मयम तप उच्यते मनः प्रसादः सौम्यत्वम मौनमात्म विनिग्रहः भाव संशुद्धिरित्येतत् तपो मानसम उच्यते. So the 3 types of tapas and 3 types of, we give sometimes people, we think that we are very great, हम लोगों को दे रहे हैं, but क्या वो उसका पात्र है? Is it the right time? Is it the right place? अदेश काले यद्दानम अपात्रेभ्यश्च दीयते इति तामसम, ऐसे बोलते हैं उसमें. And what is the right place? Who is the right patra? What is the right time, etc. पूरा उसमें वो दिया हुआ है. So food, yajna, tapas and dana according to the gunas. So 12 verses for this and 3 for the 3 types of tapa. Body का, mind का और speech का क्या tapas है. 18th chapter mein again large part is on the tapas, sorry, on the gunas. So here it goes, 9:16. Okay, by 20 we'll finish. 1 to 2, he asks what is the difference between sannyasa and tyaga. That is how the chapter begins. Sannyasa is outer renunciation, tyaga is inner renunciation of desire, and tyaga is better than sannyasa, he tells. Then he says, what should not be renounced at all? Yajna dana tapah karma na tyajyam evatat yajno danam tapaschaiva pavanani manishina. Yajna, dana and tapa should never be relinquished because they purify you. Many times we hear this word shuddhi. Shri Aurobindo कहते हैं शुद्धि, then क्या कहते हैं उसको, शुद्धि, मुक्ति, सिद्धि and bhukti. But शुद्धि कैसे करूं? यज्नो दानम तपश्चैव पावनानि मनीषिणः. Practice yajna, practice dana, practice tapa. ये इसमें दिया हुआ है in the 18th chapter. The verses for this is in the 1 to 12 में है. I'll again, बहुत important है practically. I'll share these verses separately on the group. 5 determinants of action. इसमें there are 2 verses where the Sankhya is brought in. कि सांख्य के अंदर ये 5 चीजें बोली गई हैं. According to Sankhya, this is the jnana, this is the karma, this is the karta, all that is there. But basically in the first half of this chapter, 7 things, उनका गुणत्रय विभाग किया गया है गुणों के हिसाब से. What are those 7 things? Tyaga, okay, karma, karta, the doer, knowledge, jnana, buddhi, and dhriti. These are the 7 things. Amazing, amazing classification. I mean, the way properly, and very easy to memorize also, because you can memorize in sets of 3. What appeals to you more? So the tamasic kind of dhriti. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam vishadam madamevacha na vimunchati durmeda dhritik sa partha tamasi. That kind of persistence by which we hold on to sleep. Yaya swapnam bhayam, to fear. If we are holding on to our fears. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam, to some kind of sorrow. Vishadam, depression. Madam, illusion, intoxication, pride, arrogance, madamevacha. No vimunchati. We don't want to be free from them. This kind of persistence is called tamasic. What, how, where you should persist? आपको किस चीज में persist करना चाहिए? सात्विक persistence वो उसमें first श्लोका में दिया हुआ है. हाँ, that persistence by which through the power of yoga you have control over your manah pranendriya kriya, on the actions of your mind, body and prana actions, mind, body and life basically. That is the right kind of persistence. So this is there. Then comes basically what are the swabhava and the actions of the 3 types of varnas. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Visham, Shudra Nam cha Parantapa, Karmani Prabhibhaktani, Swabhava Prabhavair Gunaihi. And then what is the karma of the Brahman? What is the karma of the Kshatriya? What is the karma of the Vaishya, of the Shudra? Brahmana or Kshatriya ke case mein he gives the qualities. In the case of the Vaishya and Shudra, he gives the actual work. Then finally from 18.49 to 63 is the 15 verse summary. Here I will not use this section because that Sri Aurobindo has given. Okay, 18.49 to 63. इन्होंने further और divide किया हुआ है इसको on this page, but that is 18.49 to 18.63. We tend to forget. It's not easy to remain at the level of the Gita normally, all the time rather. So this is the summary of the Gita before the great Mahavakya comes, which comes in the 65 and 66. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. And then finally, I mean, it is told that somebody who tells about this knowledge to others, there is nobody who is more dearer than this to me. So whatever we are learning in the Gita, if we share it with others, simply by virtue of that, we become dear to the divine. Ya imam paramam gohyam madbhakteshva vidhasyati bhakte mai param kritva mame vaishyatya samshayaha nachatasman manushyeshu kaschin me priyakrittamah. There is no action more dearer to me than giving this knowledge to people. Nachatasman manushyeshu kaschin me priyakrittamah bhavita nacha me tasmat anyah priyataro bhuvi. भविष्य में भी मुझे इससे ज्यादा प्रियतर कोई नहीं होगा. So if you are able to share this knowledge of the Gita with others, you know, that is the most beloved action of the divine, right? And then those last 5 beautiful verses, I mean, they just, आपका खुद का रोमहर्षण हो जाता है wherein Sanjay says, I will just finish by chanting those 5 verses. इत्यहं वासुदेवस्य पार्थस sorry संजय उवाच इत्यहं वासुदेवस्य पार्थस्य च महात्मनः संवादम् इमम् अश्रौषम् अद्भुतं रोमहर्षणम् व्यासप्रसादात् श्रुतवान् एतद् गुह्यमहं परम् योगम योगेश्वरात् कृष्णात् साक्षात् कथयतः स्वयं राजन् संस्मृत्य संस्मृत्य संवादम् इमम् अद्भुतं केशवार्जुनयोः पुण्यं हृष्यामि च मुहुर्मुहुः तच्च संस्मृत्य संस्मृत्य रूपमत्यद्भुतं हरेः विस्मयो मे महान् राजन् हृष्यामि च पुनः पुनः यत्र योगेश्वरः कृष्णो यत्र पार्थो धनुर्धरः तत्र श्रीर्विजयो भूतिर् ध्रुवानीतिर्मतिर्मम. Where is Krishna and where is Arjuna? There is victory. There is the stable law of being, Dhruva Niti. And everything is basically there. Glory and victory and everything is there where Yogeshwara Krishna and the Dhanodhara Partha is there. So he has already declared that before even the war has started, that the victory is on the side of these two people. So I'm sorry, I mean, limited time replied to you. Okay. So it's a very rough summary, but despite the limitations of my this thing attempt, if you go through this and especially through these verses and group together, this is a fantastic discovery. Through this, you can get an outline of the Gita anytime when you want. It is there on the website. All right. More than this, I don't think it is necessary because Sri Aurobindo will cover it in beautiful depth and detail. I mean, you will be left flabbergasted. Already, we have not even started, and like Dhaval Bhai said last time, कि मेरे को तो already I'm feeling so happy to read this. Right? So 9:22. Sorry for overshooting the time. Right? Anything to say? Otherwise, we can just meet on Friday. I hope this was useful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think this gives us the relevant sections to go to for any individual
Also,
queries
I
that
might
we
just
may
say,
have.
you
Thank
can
you so
just go
much.
through the names of the chapter titles in the essays on the Gita. Just going through those chapter titles will give you a fair idea as to how this is organized by Sri Aurobindo. The chapter titles will not always be, just for example, Purushottama Yoga है, वहाँ पे वो लिखता है 3 Purushas. Then he says the fullness of divine action. So he is taking the chapter titles from the verses. He is not copy pasting and just translating the Sanskrit Adhyaya name into English. So he's done it in his own unique style.
Which app is this where you read these sections from?
Bhagavad Gita, Sri Aurobindo Society. I'll share the link to the app on the WhatsApp group.
Perfect. Thanks.
I must have already shared it, but I'll share it again. Android पे तो है. I think it is there on iOS also.
Yeah, it is on
there
iOS. I have it.
iOS पे. You use
All
it on
the three
iOS.
all the three are there. Veda,
Yeah, Veda, Upanishad, Gita, all are there.
all are there.
Yeah, and this is the web version of the app. I mean, with a bigger screen on laptop and all, this is much easier to see. Or इसमें भी I am saying here, if you find any typo or anything like we found, please let me know. I have the access rights to fix this. At least the verses, I can do it if there is any typo. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So ठीक है, we'll just end with half a minute of silence. Please mute yourself. Okay. See everybody on Friday. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matlab, should I close the meeting?
Yeah, no problem.
Like last time, nobody wants to discuss anything after this? Okay, all right.